Hey guys, Todd Vandermeid here for another edition of Freedom Steel. We just got done listening to the orals on the Vanderstock case, the framer receiver case. So more after the intro. All right, guys, welcome back. Todd Vandermeid, former NRA contract lobbyist, Illinois gun law guru, and the gun Santa over on Reddit. So we just had an hour and 15 minutes of arguments in the Vanderstock case, a challenge to the ATF rule on frames or receivers. And I want to tell you, I don't have a great warm and fuzzy about this, but I think there are some good takeaways. First off, I think we're going to get a bifurcated ruling. One part on frames and receivers, one part on parts kits. I think it's going to be a split decision on that. And I think that it's going to be interesting that Kavanaugh was awfully quiet. He only had a couple questions. Roberts only had a couple questions. I thought the lawyer Pete Patterson on our side did a good job in general about handling the case and laying the arguments out. With that, I think this is going to come down to a very technical and hair splitting thing. So, in subpart A of this subsection of the federal code, there is the term readily convertible. That does not appear when you talk about parts and things. It does not appear in subpart B, which talks about frames or receivers. And it does appear in other parts about silencers, suppressors, destructive devices, and the like. And I think what's going to happen is that it is going to be a big confab on statutory construction, what words mean what things, how you reach and the ATF is trying to import readily convertible into subsection B, even though it is just blatantly omitted from that subsection. They are hanging everything on there. And I think Mr. Patterson gave a great answer in the one part where they said, well, does a frame with missing a hole is part with all the other parts in the box constitute a firearm? And he said, no, it depends on what you do with subpart B. If it is not a frame or receiver under subpart B, then no, that is not a firearm in the kit. That is not a disassembled gun that you just simply have to assemble and it starts going bang. So I think that Merrick Garland did a very shrewd thing in taking this up and planting the whole PR game of ghost guns and all that. And why would you want these? Well, I'll tell you why we want these. Because so long as you keep allowing gun control to run unfettered, people want to buy or buy the components to build their own guns so the government has no record of it. That's why. Not because we're criminals, but because we don't trust the government. And when you have police chiefs sitting there in disaster zones saying you can't have a firearm and you can't buy a firearm, even though there are reports of looting going on, then no. The best thing for us is to make our own, keep them off the books so the government has no knowledge that we ever have them. And that's the ultimate purpose of that. And it didn't get into history and tradition and a lot of other stuff. It was a lot of back and forth. I will note that the anti-gunners, Jackson and Sotomayor, couldn't help but interrupt our side. They didn't interrupt the other side, but they were definitely, when our guy was getting on a roll, didn't like any of that. Gorsuch was very much down this road of subpart A versus subpart B. I think either him or Alito drafting this opinion would be best for us. And if we're going to be on the short end of a marginal decision, I'd rather have, if Gorsuch, I think he's got a very pragmatic approach to how to, but Barrett and Roberts, I think, are going to be the swings on this one. as to how far it goes. The government is making arguments about jigs and templates, and those now count as tools. They reference the 8 hour standard. I don't know if that's going to get into the opinion at all. It went unrebutted. It was one thing that I think we should have leaned on more, in that, the ATF has said that 8 hours of work with a fully functioning machine shop. And I think if you hit on that, I think that would have driven a stake home. But our side, Mr. Patterson, did a very good job of explaining the critical machining test, and they got into the term 80 percenters and all that. So I'm not holding my breath for an out of the park home run on this thing. I think it's going to come down to how much the conservatives want to deal with statutory construction. Justice Jackson, there's no. Her whole thing is that if Congress didn't define it and left it kind of vague and the agency's doing it, then we ought to give the agency free rein, and it shouldn't be up to us, the court, to interject ourselves for Congress. And she is just a complete statist and reaffirms my position as being one of the dumbest justices sitting on the United States Supreme Court. Um, Justice Alito said, look, if I've got a pad, a paper, and a pen, is this a grocery list? The answer is no. And I knew where he was going with it, and he changed up, said, well, if I have eggs and ham and bacon and greens and onions, and is that an omelet? No, it's the components for an omelet, but and it got off. The government, the Solicitor General was on her game today for the point she wanted to make. It might have been a mistake to do this all under the APA and not bring in any Second Amendment rules or litigation or components to that, but we'll see. So that's the down and dirty on the Vanderstock ruling for today. Got some other stuff to talk about and get out here. So with that, thank you always for paying attention. Like, subscribe, smash the buttons down below, copy and paste the link and spread it around through your social media. So as always, frag out.